I'm crazy. I'm antisocial. I never leave my house, really. Hey guys, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. My name is Maddie and I love posting YouTube videos, TikToks, and Instagram posts about books. And this video is not going to be different from that. So far this year, I have read 68 books at the time of this video, and I'm here to tell you a little bit more about my favorites and books I would recommend out of those 68. Keep in mind, these are my opinions. Now, a little disclaimer before I get into the tag. Did I even say this was a tag? I have not had a lot of 5-star reads this year. As I read more books and as I've found 5-star reads that I think about every single day, I'm a lot pickier, and I feel like my ratings have become harsher. 2020 me is quaking right now because in 2020 I rated every single book I read 5 stars. Not every single one, but if I liked it enough, I was like, oh, 5 stars. I was 5-star happy. But I'm not like that anymore. I think I have 3 books that I consider 5 stars still to this day that I've read this year. 2 other books were probably like 4.5 stars. And then another 5-star read was a reread, so that doesn't really count, but so I don't know. Think what you will. I'm on a mission to find more 5-star reads by the end of the year. With that being said, the first question is the best book you've read so far in 2024. And both of these books I read months ago in February, but I still love them and I still recommend them to people. So first we have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This is a literary fiction. I'm sure everyone has heard of this by now. It's won so many awards. I went into it thinking I was going to love it, and I was exactly right. And I'm so glad I read this. It is a long book and you really have to think about what you're reading and reflect and like do your research as you're reading this, but it is so worth it. I absolutely love this book and you should definitely give it a try. Give it at least 100 pages before you decide to DNF it. That's my advice. And then the other best book I've read this year is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I know that this is such an unpopular opinion, but I don't even care what people have to say about this. This book is a work of art. It's perfect. I can't wait for the Amazon Prime series that they're making out of this. And ever since that moment, I fell in love with Carly Fortune's writing. I joined like a Zoom meeting that I paid for so I could see her talk. Like I follow her Instagram. I have my notifications turned on to her posts. I think she's an amazing writer and she's also an amazing resource if you want to become a writer. I've said this before in the past, but she always talks about tips on her Instagram, and in all the articles I see of her, she's giving tips to like new writers and stuff like that. And I don't know, I'm just kind of obsessed with her and her books. I say as I've only read 2 books by her. Give this book a chance. I think you will like it if you like summer romances. Next question is the best sequel you've read so far. Right away, I'm thinking of If Only I Had Told Her by Laura Nolan. This is the sequel to If Only He Had Been With Me. I loved it. And that is also an unpopular opinion. I am the queen of unpopular opinions. Give me a crown. And maybe it's because so many people like downplayed this book and people were like, oh, don't read it. It's not worth it. It's just not what I expected. So I went into it with low expectations and I ended up absolutely loving it. It was emotional. It was beautiful, heartbreaking, and maybe that's just what I needed in that moment. I really enjoyed it, and if you haven't read this book yet, I would consider reading it for sure. I'm so glad I did. I have 2 more. I reread the Hunger Games series this year, and I think Catching Fire is the best book in that series. I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with the scene when Pete is like, it's different for me. Like, you have people that go home to Katniss. I don't. Nobody cares about me. And Katniss is like, I care about you. Gets me every time. So Catching Fire. And then also I read Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage a few months ago, and it's the sequel to Done and Dusted, a cowboy romance series. So good. They're really short books, but somehow she gets a lot of plot in there, a lot of depth, and it's beautiful. I love it. Next question is, what is a new release that you haven't read but you want to read soon? And right away we have Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. I read the 4 books in the series last year within a month. maybe even shorter than that. And I immediately fell in love with Jessa Hastings' writing. I got this book right when it came out, but I just haven't picked it up yet. I don't know what I'm waiting for. I've been putting it off because I just know it's gonna be amazing, and I don't want Magnolia and BJ's story to be over, because this is the last book about Magnolia and BJ. She's still writing Daisy's books. I put it on my TBR for this month, and I think I'm actually going to get to it because I've been doing an amazing job sticking to my TBR. Look at this chunker of a book. Over 700 pages. Cannot wait to read it. I need to read it. What am I doing? The next question is, what are your most anticipated releases for the second half of the year? I had a hard time coming up with some of these because I feel like a lot of new releases came out this summer, but upon further research, I do have a few that I'm keeping an eye on. So first, we have This Is Why We Lied by Karen Slaughter. This is part of the Will Trent series, and I did read the first book in that series maybe 2 months ago and loved it. I'll talk more about Karen Slaughter later in this video, but I'm definitely excited to read that one. Then we have Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I loved Normal People, and I heard Jack Edwards talk about this book. He already read it, he got an ARC, and he said it was one of his favorite books of the year. It's a contemporary fiction. It comes out in September, and I will be purchasing, or maybe I will be putting on hold at the library because I'm not allowed to buy any more books. Then we have The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden, which is a thriller. It comes out October 1st. I love anything Frida McFadden writes. And then I found this book. I don't know how I found this book exactly, but it's called Pickleballers by Ilana Long. It comes out in November, and it's just a rom-com about pickleball players, and I got into pickleball in the last few years, and I think it would be funny to read it. And the description sounded really funny. It had a lot of pickleball puns. I saw one Goodreads review. They said they hadn't read the book yet, obviously because it's not out, but they were like, this has gone too far because pickleball has become such a thing in the last few years. More than ever. I mean, it's been a thing for a while. The next question is the biggest surprise. And so for that, I'm going to say Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. Ali Hazelwood's earlier books, like The Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain, I gave 5 stars. I loved them. Again, that may have just been my 2020 era. But after that, I read Bride and Love Theoretically, and I was like, ooh, like, they weren't my favorite. So I was kind of scared to read this one, especially seeing people's reviews of it. But I read it and I ended up really liking it. I gave it 4 stars. There were so many cute moments. It's not for everyone though, because it is really spicy, but I think the spice worked in this one. It worked. It made sense with the plot. Really enjoyed this one. Next question is a favorite new author or a new to you author that you love. This is not going to be a surprise, but I'm going to say Carly Fortune. I've only read Every Summer After and This Summer Will Be Different. Obviously, you guys know I loved Every Summer After. This Summer Will Be Different was not 5 stars for me, but I still really enjoyed it and I loved her writing. I have yet to read Meet Me at the Lake, but I'm going to. I just like Carly Fortune. I like her writing. I like her as a person. So there you have it. And then I said I would get back to Karen Slaughter. Karen Slaughter is a thriller author. She's actually from Atlanta, which is where we used to live. And she has tons of books she has published. I originally read Pretty Girls by her in 2020. It was so scary and horrifying, but it was 5 stars. And then I recently picked up After That Night by her and Pieces of Her, and I listened to them as audiobooks and they were amazing. I will read anything she writes. I think she's an amazing author and you guys should definitely check out her books. And she's not new at all. She's been around for years, clearly, because she has so many books published, but she's newer to me. She just knows what she's doing. She knows how to write a good thriller. I also put on here Megan Lawley. I just read That's Not My Name by her and I gave it 5 stars. It's a young adult thriller and I just really enjoyed it. I looked up when her next book is coming out and it's coming out in January and I can't wait to read it. Those are my 3 new favorite authors, or new to me. Next question is your newest fictional crush. Eli. My boy Eli. That's all I have to say. Next, we have a book that made you cry. So many. This one, If Only I Had Told Her, which I already talked about. I think I actually have a picture too. In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros. And The 7-Year Slip was really emotional and I was not expecting that. Then we have a book that made you happy, and I'm going to mention 2 books that I haven't talked about just so things aren't repetitive. Clearly, if I've mentioned books I love and books that I gave 5 stars, you guys know what they are. These are 2 books that I did not give 5 stars, but I still really love, and I don't have my copy with me, but I read Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld this year, and it was so cute. Now, is the beginning very, very slow? Yes. But does the ending make up for it? Absolutely yes. I can still think of specific moments from that book, and I think everybody should read it if you have a copy of it. And then most recently I read Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan, and it was just the cutest little Hallmark based book I've ever read. Then we have the most beautiful book you've bought this year. I think the Magnolia Parks book is beautiful, clearly, but this is another gorgeous, gorgeous book. This is Gothicana by Rune X. It has purple sprayed edges. I also think this cover is beautiful too. It's dark, but I love it. Then on the inside, there are also illustrations in the front and in the back. This is a dark romance, if you couldn't tell, and I really hope I get to this soon. Maybe in October or something like that. Next question. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? All of the books in my physical TBR, but I have a few. Better Than the Movies. Why have I not read this? This book has been on my physical TBR for such a long time. The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I'm so sorry, Kristen. I'm going to read this soon. A Man Called Ove, something like that. I need to read this because I also want to watch the movie, and I'm annoying and I like to read the book first. And then we have The Diary of Anne Frank. I never read this for school curriculum when I was younger. Obviously I read some passages from it and we learned about Anne Frank, but I never read the whole thing. And this is even more important to me right now because I live in Amsterdam, blocks away from the Anne Frank house. And so I'm making this a priority to read this whole book before the end of the year. Also, I don't have this book, but I believe it's on Kindle Unlimited, Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I need to read a Kennedy Ryan book. What am I doing? I know I'm gonna love it. Okay, and then I have a few more questions that Katie on BookTube came up with in her video. I'm only gonna answer a few because for some of them, the answers were repetitive. But she also asked the question, what book do you want to reread before the end of the year? This is ambitious, but I want to reread Beach Read by Emily Henry. I reread this last year and I annotated it, and it was just an amazing experience. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I want to get to this one, but if I don't, I really do want to reread Happy Place because this is like my new favorite by Emily Henry. These 2 books are very like high up there. I don't know which one I like more, and so maybe rereading Happy Place would confirm what I think, and that is that Happy Place is my new favorite book by her. It's emotional though. Like, don't look at this cute pink book and think it's happy. It's not. I mean, it is, but there's a lot of depth and emotion in this book, and I really want to reread it. And then I also have on here, I want to reread The Way I Used to Be. I think it's by Amber Smith. I read this a few years ago, and the author just came out with this sequel, I think the end of last year. It's called The Way I Am Now, and I went to read it the other day, and I was like, I think I need to reread the first book because I'm a little lost. I obviously know the overarching plot of the first book, but I just want more specific details. And I actually have the audiobook out from the library for the first book, so I'm gonna listen to that in the next few weeks, and then hopefully I can get to the new book, The Way I Am Now. Then we have a series you want to finish. That would be the Bridgerton series. If you've seen my recent videos, I've been talking about the 4 books I've read by Julia Quinn lately, and I like them. I think they're a fun time. I've said before, are they the best books ever written? No, but I'm obsessed with the TV series, and everyone's eventually gonna get their own season on the show, and I would just like to read about them first. So far, I've read Benedict's story, Francesca's story, Eloise, and Colin/Penelope. This is ambitious. This series I want to start and finish, or just start, and that would be the Crescent City series by Sarah J Maas. I've just been eyeing it for so long. I think it's a series I'm really gonna enjoy by her because I loved ACOTAR, and we'll see what happens. Those are some chunky books. And then the next question is, what are your 5-star predictions for the remainder of the year? And one of them is a book I'm currently reading, It is Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. I think this is my first Kristen Hanna book and I'm 20% into it. I'm really liking it. Listen, I know how this book ends. I know how this book ends. It's going to destroy me, but I still think it could be 5 stars. I love a book that destroys me. Who doesn't? I also think Magnolia Park's Into the Dark will be 5 stars because the rest of the series is a 5-star series to me. I also think Better Than the Movies has potential to be 5 stars for me. Katie's last question is, do you think you will reach your reading goal? My 2024 reading challenge on Goodreads I have set at 80 books. I'm currently at 68 books as of the beginning of August. So yes, I do think I will reach my reading goal, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking of 100 books. So once I hit 80, my next goal is 100, and I honestly still think I could do that. I don't know, I'm crazy. I'm antisocial, I never leave my house really. So there's opportunity to reach 100 books. Okay, and then the last question that I kind of just made up myself because I'm a genius. A book you enjoyed that didn't fit any of these categories. And I have a few of those. First, I really enjoyed the reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. This is the same author as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I gave this book 4 stars. I thought it was great. I think you guys should read it. I also read The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. This is the other book I gave 5 stars. It's a young adult dystopian book, and I read this at the beginning of the year. I'm having a hard time remembering specific details from this book, but I do remember finishing that book and feeling so empowered and that women are incredible. Also, it was a very interesting concept too. So kind of like The Handmaid's Tale. And then the last book that I really enjoyed that I almost never talk about is Julia Fox's memoir. It's called Down the Drain. I have never read a memoir so fast in my life. Her life story is so fascinating and it is very hard to read, but I'm really glad I read it. I knew almost nothing about Julia Fox before, and her writing was incredible. Okay, and those are all of the questions in the mid-year book tag. Comment down below your favorite 5-star read from this year because I'm desperate to find more 5-star reads before the end of the year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below for more bookish content. I hope you guys will stick around for my next video. Bye.